kids performed in 8th grade on the National Assessment of Educational Progress.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If you wouldn't mind indulging me
Yes.
for a second. There's been a lot of conversation about the report about Oregon's high school graduation rate and how it relates to everybody else. I think what is getting lost in that conversation far too often is when you look at that chart with all of the states, the numbers that they're reporting, even with the federal cohort data, isn't the same. Take, for instance, Mississippi, that's talking about taking all of their special ed students and making high school graduation requirements individualized, student by student by student. The U.S. Department of Education, if they do that, will allow them to count all of those kids as regular graduates after 4 years. Our rate doesn't compare particularly favorably to Washington, but in Washington, their ELL students and special ed students, they have exceptions to their high school graduation requirements, and even though they are not doing the same things as what is listed as a requirement for a high school graduation, the U.S. Department of Education allows them to list them as regular graduates within 4 years. Oregon, I met with the feds. I sat in the office in Washington, D.C. and asked how they calculated this data. Oregon is an outlier in terms of the integrity of what we report as a 4-year completer for a graduation rate. We don't make exceptions for anybody, anywhere. So I think this information is tremendously misleading when we try to compare our kids to others. When you're looking at, 14% of the kids in our state who are in special ed, we aren't allowing any exceptions, and almost everybody else is. The other thing that we lose, I think, when we look at that number is if you look at the chart, we're not comparing to 100%. We're comparing to districts that are, Iowa with the highest rate is close to 90%. So we're not looking at, the size of that gap is a little bit smaller, and we're also not looking at district by district. What are we looking at? In my districts, we're at well over 85%, posting double-digit gains in over 1 year period of time, even if you don't consider now including the modified diplomas. And then the last thing, if you don't mind my indulging, I worry about this conversation so much because it's important for us to talk about what we need to do better, but the message that we keep sending to the public, and more importantly to our kids, is that somehow their schools don't have a good quality. I was talking to a group of kids the other day. We were playing a trivia game, and one of them gave a wrong answer, and one of these kids, a high school student, said to the other, "I know we all go to public school, but I would expect you to do better." I was mortified that these kids would say this, and that we have created a culture that would allow them to see themselves in such a negative light. When you look at student by student, day by day, what's happening in our classrooms and happening with our teachers are a lot of really high quality experiences. So I hope we can find a way to look at how to make things better, but recognize that the way that we've been talking about high school graduation rates in the state is really sensationalized, and it's not that it's not fair to the schools, it's not fair to our kids, because we're holding them to higher standards than anyone else, and then we're saying they're doing badly because we're doing that.